Cowboy Up with Texas on the air. Welcome to the Friday edition right here on Hot News Talk Radio, where you can watch us on the Hot News Cam, or if you don't have time to listen to us right now, you're on your way home, but you'd still like to get us, you can always catch us at hotnewstalkradio.com. And don't forget, you can also get us on Twitter, especially if you're needing things like up-to-the-minute news and weather, even the occasional sports. Well, drivers in a village just outside of Cleveland, Ohio, have noticed here lately that some of the police officers have been holding a new gadget in their hands as they stand at the side of the road, and it's not your typical radar gun. Officers in Newburgh Heights Police Department are starting to use handheld speed cameras. You know, the things like we've been seeing around here locally where you've got a thing up on a pole and all of a sudden it'll flash and you know you're going to be getting one of those tickets in the mail. Well, a lot of people were jumping up and down and saying, well, those things weren't right because there was nobody there to judge it, to have the human interaction on it. So basically they took the pole away and stuck a cop over there holding it. And this is supposed to somehow magically make it all right. So these devices allow the cops to measure speed, take pictures, and issue tickets without having to pull over the alleged speeder at the time. They just go back to the precinct, download it into a computer, and everything gets done in the mail. Oh, man, so I don't understand how replacing the pole with a cop is supposed to magically make these things great, because the thing I don't understand about it is this. A police officer is supposed to stop crime when he sees it. If you're breaking the law, he's supposed to stop you from breaking the law. If you're robbing a bank, they're supposed to stop you from robbing the bank. If you're assaulting someone, they're supposed to stop you from assaulting someone. If you're speeding, they're supposed to stop you from speeding. And you don't see the cops going, well, I saw that bank robber over there, but I took a picture of him, so we'll get him sooner or later. You don't see them beating somebody up and the cop go, oh, we'll send them a violation notice in the mail. But, if you're speeding down the road and the cop sees you speeding, somehow it's supposed to be okay that he allows you to keep speeding. You're still breaking the law. I mean, aren't we told time and time again that how many criminals are caught because a police officer pulled them over for some sort of traffic infraction? Well, if they let you just keep on going down the road, they don't know who you are. They might could have caught a mass murderer. Now they're just going to try to send them a ticket in the mail at some point down the road. This is bad police work. The last thing we need is for something like this to come here to the Chattanooga Valley area. A lot of times it's not even the person's car. The person driving the car isn't even the owner of the car. Say one of your kids borrowed your car. I mean, my teenagers drove my cars for years. So, they're really not stopping the proper person if they're sending it in the mail. Then they were trying to say, well, these will still help because we're utilizing the officer to better redeploy resources for community policing. How's that true? That's at least one thing you could say. If you had the camera on a pole, at least the police officer was able to be out and about on patrol. But if the officer is the one standing there being the pole, he's not out on patrol. He's not keeping an eye on the community. He's standing there being a revenue enhancement officer, not a police officer. And that's a very important distinction. We're always being told that police officers are there to protect the community. Well, if he's doing this, he's not protecting the community because he's not even stopping the speeder. He's just being a revenue enhancement officer. He's being a tax collector. That's all he is. And you say, well, surely that won't happen around here. Well, they're looking at doing it in Memphis. Once they've got their toe in the state, then Memphis will be woohooing about how good it is. Next thing you know, we'll have Andy Burt going, well, you know, they're doing it over there in Memphis. Maybe we ought to be doing it here in Chattanooga. So I don't think that that's a good idea in any part of Tennessee, much less the United States. Oh, man. Yeah. Aren't we shorthanded enough on officers without having to pay them to stand at the side of the road like a pole? Oh, man. Well, another thing that has come up is the cost of illegal immigration in the state of Tennessee. You know, we're told time and time again that, well, you know, the illegal immigrants actually pay more in than they cost us. That's something you hear all the time from these liberals. Is, oh, well, you know, they do the jobs nobody else will do, as our unemployment rate is climbing past 95 million people. I think one or two of those might be interested in some of them jobs the illegals are taking. What it is it's not that they're taking jobs Americans won't do. It's that they're willing to work for subhuman wages that Americans want to try to demand better wages. I mean, you know, the government says that we're supposed to have a minimum wage. I think a few of those illegal immigrants are working for less than minimum wage. Well, anyway, they just did a analysis by the Federation for American Immigration Reform and found that the burden on Tennessee taxpayers for illegal immigration was $285 million in 2007, and it's only gotten worse. In fact, they say that for the 2013 study, it had jumped to $547 million. Now, that's quite a hunk of money, but didn't the liberals say that, well, the illegal immigrants are spending all sorts of money? Well, they are. They're just not spending quite that much. They said that in 2010, illegal immigrants, paid in $133 million. But that's far short of even the 2007 amount of $285 million that they were costing us. I mean, you know, you got to think about all the things that taxpayer money goes for. Taxpayers spend money on the education of children of illegal immigrants, and you also have an additional money for English as a second language classes that are usually free to the adults. Well, if it's so important for them to be here, why aren't they learning the language on their own before they come here? You don't see too many English classes being done down in Mexico. Then once they get here, they don't do a whole lot of bother about learning complete English. Although I will say one thing that I was told one time is, you ever want to know how much English an illegal alien knows? Mess up their paycheck. You'll figure out real quick that they know way more English than what you think they do. Well, anyway, let's see. You also have to take into account things like the cost of jails, because let's face it, folks, the illegal immigrants are already criminals just by crossing the border illegally. So it's no surprise when a fair number of them break more laws and end up going to jail. And they can cost Tennessee $6 million a year just on prisons. And that doesn't include judicial costs, the courts, or law enforcement costs, where they have to hire additional police officers because of the number of illegals in the neighborhoods. Oh, man alive. And then you've got an estimated $22 million a year plus being spent on medical costs. I mean, how many of these illegal aliens do you think are on Obamacare? Not that that would pay for anything anyway. But so you've got, all these different costs that are figured into all of this. And you have to figure out that they're costing this state way more than they're worth. I mean, they say that illegal immigrants only account for about 2.2% of the state's population and only about 3% of the state's workforce. That's about like 100,000 workers, grand total for the entire state. And we are out literally millions and millions of dollars right here in Tennessee. Do you think you're getting your taxpayers' money's worth? I sure don't. Oh, I'll tell you somebody that's been getting their money's worth. This shocked me when I saw this. The actor Will Smith, who I've always kind of liked most of his movies. He's had a few bad ones, but overall I've liked Will Smith. Well, I just found out that Will Smith donated $150,000. That would have paid for 3 or 4 Mexicans right there. Yeah. Anyway, Will Smith donated $150,000 to Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam for their Justice or Else rally. I mean, really? Will Smith is giving money to the man that just asked for 10,000 volunteers to kill white people. That's right. They just had this big rally down in Washington, D.C., where they had chants. They were showing chants on TV where these people in Washington, D.C. were up on the stage chanting, "Down, down, USA, down, down, USA." Well, now, for them to be able to afford those stages, they got to get a lot of money. So they went to Will Smith, and he ponied up $150,000. These are the same people that were saying we must rise up and kill those. We need to stalk them and kill them and let them feel the pain of death that we are feeling. Now, I don't know much, but I do know that the last time I checked, the main people killing blacks was other blacks. And Will Smith, he got the vast majority of the money he's got from white people going to see his movies. Yeah, him and his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, have also given money to the Black Panthers, a black power movement that borders on being a terrorist organization. I don't think it even borders. It is a terrorist organization. That's what's funny is you've got the Department of Justice here under Obama's administration, and they can't go fast enough talking about who all the terrorists in this country are, how Tea Party people, returning vets, constitutionalists who only want the country to follow the Constitution, and these people are terrorists, urban terrorists. Meanwhile, you've got people like Louis Farrakhan going out in public calling for blacks to kill whites for the sole reason of being white. It doesn't matter who they are, what they are. If they're white, kill them. Isn't that just like ISIS, who's saying if they're not Muslim, kill them? Well, it is the Nation of Islam, I guess. Anyway, but they are giving money to this group. Farrakhan's been encouraging other celebrities to donate to his events. He's attempting to raise $1.8 million to fund his hate campaign. Well, that's what That's all it takes is for one to give money, and then Will Smith gave us a lot of money. How much are you going to give? Well, if Will Smith gave some, I guess I will too. If nobody gives them money, and everybody else goes, well, I ain't giving you money either. But once one does, then all them liberals start lining up. Here, take my money too. Take my money too. That seems to be the pattern with Hollywood liberals, especially regarding religion. They constantly say how much they hate religion, but if someone dares to criticize Islam, all of a sudden they got to rush in there and defend it and cry hatred, hatred. When who's the ones that's crying hatred? It's Louis Farrakhan calling about his hatred of whites and how he wants to kill them all. And Smith's considerable donation helped promote Farrakhan's rally. Oh, man, I tell you one thing. I will never again go see a Will Smith movie. Other people want to give him money, they can, but I'll be danged if I'm going to give him money that he can then use to give to somebody that wants to try to kill me. And that's the thing. The Justice Department just released a document that they claim justifies the killing of U.S. citizens in the name of national security. In fact, it sets out the legal authority for the president to assassinate, that's right, assassinate U.S. citizens. The Department of Justice legal argument attempts to make it appear that only U.S. citizens who are senior operational leaders of Al-Qaeda or the associated force are considered eligible for assassination. However, by the end of their report, the DOJ document has moved beyond foreign countries to include any geographic area, which would include the United States proper, and authorizes legal force against any person classified as a potential hostile by the president or by any high-level official of the U.S. government, even when there is no evidence to support such an accusation. Potential. In other words, not convicted, not even known for sure that they did anything, just at some point down the road, they might be a problem. I think they made a movie about that, didn't they? That was called The Minority Report, where they kept tabs on everybody, and if they suspected you were fixing to create a crime or do a crime, they'd run out there and arrest you. And you're like, but I didn't do anything. Well, you didn't do it yet, but we're going to get you before you can. Well, in the DOJ's paper, imminent threat is redefined to include a citizen plotting about some threat at some distant time. The government doesn't even have to have clear evidence that a specific attack is going to even be taking place. And though much is made about the law of war, the citizen to be assassinated can be from far from the actual hostility. The president's already assassinated a couple of Americans that were over in the Middle East, but they were at least in the battle zone, and we knew that they were actually doing something. We knew they were out there pulling the trigger, killing Americans. But now they're trying to say, well, we can do that anywhere we want to anybody we want. No constitutional protections, no review of a judge, no jury of your peers, no requirement of actual imminent threat, and no need for you to be caught on the battlefield. Because remember, the government has already declared that the entire planet is the battlefield. When you're in criminal court, to put someone in prison or sentence them to death, the burden of proof was always had to be met by the government that it was beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. In order to get a search warrant, the Fourth Amendment requires the government to meet the standard of probable cause as reviewed and approved by a judge. Even the NSA goes through the farce of having a judge sign a search warrant. It ain't worth the paper it's written on because the judge doesn't really know what he's doing. but at least they go through the charade of having it done. But now with this new DOJ paper, they don't even bother doing that. They just say, well, we think he's a threat. Well, he might be a threat to your party. I mean, that's the sad part right there. You know, would a Republican be an imminent threat to a Democrat? Maybe, maybe not. But see, that's the problem. Who's the deciding factor? Who gets to make that determination? Somebody with a grudge? Because we all know that Obama can hold a terrible grudge at times. Oh, man, I'll tell you what. That's right. You know, the Fifth Amendment requires that before the government can take someone's life, they are guaranteed an indictment by a grand jury and conviction of a jury by their peers. Unfortunately, that is not the case here, and the only reference the DOJ makes to the Constitution is to point out that it doesn't apply. It actually says in the article that the Constitution doesn't matter. Oh, man. It's interesting to note that though the DOJ continuously appeals to the government's inherent to protect itself, the administration does not seem to recognize such a right for us. We're not allowed to protect ourselves. We have no protections under this paper. Apparently, this administration only claims such a right belongs to the government. Now, isn't that why the framers of the Constitution set up the Constitution the way they did? Each of us has an inherent right to self-defense. Sam Adams said the rights of the colonists are these: first, life; second, liberty; and third, property and the ability to defend all of them. Well, our founders were intimately aware that the government often have their own perspective on things, and they have the power and tools to justify their actions at all levels. Their point would be that a government not only has an agenda, but also has the power to control and manipulate information. We must not only guard against what men do, but what they may do. Well, they could say that about us. Well, we got to guard against what they may do. Yeah, but we got to guard against what the government may do and what they're right now attempting to do. I mean, remember Janet Napolitano when she was up there, when she was the head of the Homeland Security, she warned that Americans who were right-wing extremists concerned about illegal immigration, abortion, increased federal power and restrictions on firearms, and returning war vets. This is who they're worried about? I'm worried about an out-of-control government. I guess that makes me on their list right there. Because, folks, there's a terrorist out there, but it ain't us. We'll be back with more Cowboy Up with Tex in just a minute.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect clear skies to continue through the nighttime. Still a little breeze out of the northwest and much cooler lows into the lower 40s. For the weekend, lots of sunshine, but staying quite cool through Sunday. Afternoon highs only 63 to 65 with lows upper 30s to near 40. Join us at Abba's House Wednesday, October 28th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. for our annual trunk or treat. There'll be inflatables, live entertainment, and of course, tons of candy. It's a free gift to our community from Abba's House. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ward. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. Did you know that a quarter of the world's population will experience mental illness? My guest this week is former Congressman Patrick Kennedy, who says the United Nations must make mental illness a priority. Find out why this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
It's Rick Davis Golden Diamonds half-off remounting party going on right now.
Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds half-off remounting party is an affordable way to revitalize your jewelry. Don't miss the party going on today at Rick Davis half-off remounting party. Give your diamond ring a fresh new look or a new design, as Rick's Gold and Diamonds will fix it quickly, or maybe even while you wait. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, 40 years of service, 5301 Brainerd Road, 5301 Brainerd Road. Call 580-2587, 580-2587 for Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, an affordable way to revitalize your jewelry. The half-off party's going on today, so don't miss it at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road. Call 580-2587. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
We've got a table here at Delia's and Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's and Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
That smells so good. Smells like a big Italian dinner. But you're going to walk out with two. Buy one hot pizza, get a one for free. 2 pizzas. You got the 2 for the price of 1 at Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. My favorite Italian restaurant of all the time. Now, I'm living in Hicks, and I go to Raphael's right down the street in Hicks and Pike, right near Highland Plaza. You're in Saudi Daisy? Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria in Saudi Daisy. Just next to Saudi Daisy Church of God. Hey, you're on Signal Mountain. There's a Raphael's Italian Restaurant and a Pizzeria. It's right on the main drag. You're going to love the pasta, the pizza. Buy one hot pizza, get a one for free. 2 pizzas. You got the 2 for the price of 1 at Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Tastes so good. Bring the whole family. Come on, Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Mangia. Salute.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
TGIF, folks. Yeah, thank goodness it's Friday. Hopefully, everybody's going to have a fun weekend. But one thing's for sure, we need to start digging out our sweaters. You know, they say that tonight it's going to get down into the low 40s. I mean, right now it's 69 degrees, but they say that by 6 a.m. it could be possibly down to 43. Oh, man, you know, next thing you know, they're going to be saying we're heading for another ice age. You know, back when I was a kid, they had all the people running around, oh, we're going to be in an ice age by the year 2000. Then they were like, oh, global cooling, we're going to cause a world war by the year 2000. And they were, oh, global warming and rising sea levels will wipe out entire nations by the year 2000. That was back in 1989. 1990, we have 5 to 7 years left to save the rainforest. That was our dear Vice President Al Gore. Oh, 1999, the Himalayan glaciers will be gone in 10 years. Snow will be a thing of the past. Oh, global warming will cause fewer hurricanes. Oh, wait a minute. Global warming is going to cause more hurricanes. Oh, the ice in the Arctic will be gone by 2013. And the most absurd one of all, in 2014, the science is settled. Yeah, the science is settled, all right. It's called weather. Oh, man alive. You know, they want to say that the climate deniers are the ones that are all crazy and everything like that, but you got to look at something. More and more information keeps coming out showing that these climate scientists are the ones actually ignoring the evidence, because if the evidence doesn't fit their little scenario, they change it. They adjust it. Well, you know, when you start adjusting the facts, that's called cheating. And the fact is that the climate models used by alarmist scientists to predict global warming are getting worse, not better. In fact, carbon dioxide, which is one of the main culprits that they want to yell and scream about, does more good than harm. Well, who's saying this? Well, one of the world's greatest theoretical physicists. Now, I want y'all to remember something. Remember that TV show Big Bang Theory with Sheldon? He's a theoretical physicist. And this guy is even smarter than Sheldon. Yeah, you've got Dr. Freeman Dyson. He's a British-born but naturalized American citizen, and he's worked at Princeton University as a contemporary of Einstein and has advised the U.S. government on a wide range of scientific and technical issues for a number of years. And he recently expressed his despair at the current scientific obsession with climate change, where he says is not a scientific mystery, but a human mystery. And the mystery is, how does it happen that a whole generation of scientific experts is blind to the obvious facts? He says this mystery can only be partly explained in terms of follow the money. He said he actually believes that it's kind of a collective yearning for apocalyptic doom. He says it's true that there's a large community of people who make their money by scaring the public. So money is certainly involved to some extent, but I don't think that's the full explanation. You know, because that's the thing. If they say they'll give you money if you can prove something, one way or the other, you're going to prove it or keep trying to prove it. And he says that President Obama has backed the wrong side in this war on climate change. He said Dyson himself, a long-standing Democrat voter, is especially disappointed by his chosen party's unscientific stance on the climate change issue. He said, I'm 100% Democrat myself, and I like Obama, but he took the wrong side on this issue, and the Republicans took the right side. Part of the problem, he says, is the Democrats' conflation of pollution, which is a genuine problem, with climate change, a natural phenomenon quite beyond mankind's ability to control. Oh, man. You know, China and India rely on coal to keep growing, so they'll clearly be burning coal in huge amounts as long as they can. They need that to get rich. Whatever the rest of the world agrees to, China and India will continue to burn coal, so the discussion is pointless. And we see that because the big discussion that Obama was just having with the Chinese, we had to cut back. We had to cut back. We had to cut back immediately. But China didn't have to start cutting back for almost 20 years, at which point, of course, Obama will be long gone out of office. Well, how come they get to keep polluting for 20 years? Oh, man, you know, pollution is quite separate to the climate problem. One can be solved, the other cannot, and the public doesn't understand that. You know, we can do something about pollution. We can cut back on the coal. But changing the climate, there's a lot involved in that. And here's the thing. Even if, and this is a big if, even if we are truly changing the weather, do you really think that the government is going to do a good job trying to reverse it? The government never fixes anything. They just make it worse. That's what they do. They form a committee that makes a plan, sets up a program, and then they go running out there taking all of our money. Things get worse. Whatever their plan was, it goes to hell in a handbasket, and it's worse. So what do? Do they quit doing what they were doing? No, they just double down. They come up with a new plan on top of the first plan, get more money, and go out there with a new program that just makes it worse. And we just sit back and let them. Well, I guess it's Dr. Dyson, says the short to medium-term solution to the pollution problem is the replacement of coal with the much-maligned shale gas, whose rejection by much of Europe he finds unfathomable and counterproductive. You know, it's so funny the way that the very thing that people need to be doing is the thing you just cannot get them to do. He said there are two main forces of energy, coal and shale gas. And emissions have been going down here in the U.S. because we use shale gas, while they've been going up in Europe because they don't use shale gas. It has half the carbon dioxide emissions of coal. In fact, China is working on trying to develop shale gas on a big scale, which does mean they would burn a lot less coal, which would be good. So it seems complete madness to prohibit shale gas. But yet, not only Great Britain, but even France is doing everything they can to totally prohibit shale gas. Well, Dyson, who just turned 91, has had a long, distinguished career as a physicist, a mathematician. And in fact, when he first came here to the United States, Robert Oppenheimer awarded him a permanent post at the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton because he was so smart. He's also worked right here in Tennessee at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory looking at climate system starting 25 years ago, before it was a hot political issue. In other words, before Al Gore was around. Anyway, the dangers of carbon dioxide, he believes, have been much overrated. In a forward to the report for the Global Warming Policy Foundation, he said, to any unprejudiced person reading this account, the facts should be obvious. The non-climate effects of carbon dioxide as a sustainer of wildlife and crop plants are enormously beneficial. The possible harmful climate effects of carbon dioxide have been greatly exaggerated, and the benefits clearly outweigh the possible damage. These facts are obvious, but the same facts are not obvious to the majority of scientists and politicians who consider carbon dioxide to be evil and dangerous. The people who are supposed to be experts and who claim to understand the science are precisely the people who are blind to the evidence. He likens climate change issue to some of the other irrational beliefs promoted throughout history by famous thinkers and adopted by loyal disciples, like the earth being the center of the universe. Well, Dyson's refusal to ever accommodate himself with the notions of the hour may explain why, unlike some of his less distinguished and brilliant contemporaries over the years, he has never been awarded a Nobel Prize. You know, I may not know much, but I do know one thing. Plants have to have carbon dioxide to grow. They give off oxygen. What do? We have to have oxygen, and we give off carbon dioxide. It makes a circle. It makes a cycle. And scientists have said that back eons ago, back in the ancient past, when plants and animals were much bigger than they are today, that there was more carbon dioxide in the air. And at the same time, there was also more oxygen in the air. Well, how is that possible? You say, how could you have more of both? Well, that's because those aren't the only two gases. You've also got gases like nitrogen, and nitrogen was just a slightly smaller amount of the gas that it is today. The plants can't grow big. We can't grow plants that we need to eat if we don't have carbon dioxide. That is a fact. No carbon dioxide, the plants don't grow. The plants don't grow, they don't give off oxygen. They don't give off oxygen, we die. That's the cycle we don't want, folks. And that's the cycle that these climate change people are trying to push. Oh, and they call us silly. Well, let's see here. Ooh, here's something interesting. They say that, I will say one thing about the Democrats. Democrats do not normally attack other Democrats. Even at their big debate the other night, the Democrats didn't attack each other a whole lot. They did a little bit, but not very much. Ronald Reagan famously talked about the Republicans' 11th commandment, not publicly attacking members of your own party. Well, the Republicans have still not learned that one, but the Democrats sure have. So it's you almost never see a Democrat talking bad about another Democrat, especially about the president. They just don't hardly do that. Well, there's one that just did. In a blast email sent out Wednesday morning, senior Democrat Senator Sherrod Brown, who represents the all-important swing state of Ohio, they say, there's about 3 or 4 states that are going to affect the national elections, and Ohio has for quite a while been one of them. Well, he slammed the White House initiative in terms typically reserved for an attack ad against Republicans. He declared that Obama's proposal is an enormous giveaway to huge corporations and CEOs and a massive sellout of American workers and jobs. Well, wait a minute. Which proposal is that? What's he talking about? He's talking about the president's push for a 12-nation trade agreement known as the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And we've talked about this a couple of times here on this show. And Brown is urging voters to sign a petition demanding Obama immediately release the text of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was finalized earlier this month. Now, I don't know if y'all remember, but this is a secret plan that Obama and a number of the Pacific nations like Japan and Mexico and several others, the Philippines and China, have all been working on, and it has been so secret that they wouldn't even let senators go read it all. If they started to go in there, they couldn't take any of their aides with them because the aides couldn't read it. They couldn't take anything with them to even make notes. They had to just read it and try to remember what they read. They weren't even allowed to take their telephones in there with them. They're afraid they might take a picture of it and send it to somebody, I guess. I don't know. But this is how super, super secret this plan was, that it was not allowed to be seen by anybody except the people that were working on it, who were all sworn to silence. Although, one of the interesting things that came out in the debate was that apparently Hillary Clinton, who's not currently in the government, somehow she knew things about this agreement. Now, how is it that we have an elected senator who's not allowed to see it, but Hillary Clinton, who's not even in the government, could? What's up with that, Obama? Well, anyway, Brown was criticizing the Obama administration and was calling on them to release the full text of the agreement before any congressional vote on the TPP. But the administration recently went to court to keep the text secret for the time being. Well, Brown said that as a legislature, he needs to see the text immediately and is obligated to see the text immediately. After all, his job is to represent the people of Ohio, and that job gets a lot tougher when I don't know the specifics of a proposal with huge potential impact on our state. Oh, man. Well, anyway, President Obama has declared that the deal reflects America's values and gives our workers the fair shot at success they deserve. You know, he's always got the good platitudes. And he has asserted that it includes the strongest commitments on labor and the environment of any trade agreement in history. Well, at the same time, corporate groups have spent millions and millions of dollars lobbying for the TPP. So if this is so good for the workers and so good for the public, seems kind of odd that corporate groups are lobbying for it. In fact, the AFL-CIO president on Tuesday expressed dismay about how the administration could at once proudly promote the deal as a good one for American workers and yet also have the U.S. Trade Representative's office keep the text of the agreement under wraps. So in other words, even the unions are backing Brown's call for transparency. I mean, you remember when Obama became president? I'm going to have the most transparent administration in history, except for my school records, which I went to court to keep hidden, except for my birth certificate, which I went to court to keep hidden, except for this trade agreement that I went to court to keep hidden. But everything else I'm going to have is the most transparent. Oh, well, except for this and except for that. Well, actually, I guess not much is transparent. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Anyway, because I'll tell you, in my experience, when there is good news to share, there's no need for secrecy. If the TPP will do for the American middle class all that he says, releasing the text would be the single best way to prove that. Oh, you know, and there has been a few leaks. There hasn't been many, but there has been a few leaks. And some of the consumer and privacy and environmental watchdog groups that have reviewed the leaked portions of the deal have sounded the alarm that the agreement's provisions on everything from pharmaceutical patents to copyrights to strengthening corporate legal rights in their challenges against domestic laws are not to our benefit. Of course, that's something you got to think about, is that when has Obama ever done anything that was to America's benefit? Oh, well, let's see. Here's another good one. You know, right after the shooting at Umpqua University, Obama came out and was just outright calling for gun confiscation similar to what they had in Australia. Now, he didn't call it confiscation. He just kept telling us how great the Australian gun law was and how we needed to think about that ourselves. Well, the thing of it is that the Australian gun law was, pure and simple, a gun confiscation. If you took your guns into them, they would give you money for your guns. If they had to go get your guns, they just took them. So here's an update on how well that Australian gun law update is going. This is Ed Chanel, a police officer in Australia, and he wrote, "Hi, Yanks. I thought you would all like to see the real figures from down under. It has now been 12 months since gun owners in Australia were forced by a new law to surrender 640,000 personal firearms to be destroyed by our own government, a program that cost Australian taxpayers more than $500 million. And the first-year results are now in. Australia-wide homicides are up 6.2%. Australia-wide assaults are up 9.6%. Australia-wide armed robberies are up 44%. In the state of Victoria alone, homicides with firearms have increased 300%. Because note that while the law-abiding citizens turned them in, the criminals did not, and the criminals still possess their guns. While figures over the previous 25 years showed a steady decrease in armed robbery with firearms in Australia, this changed dramatically upward in the past 12 months since the criminals now are guaranteed that their prey is unarmed. There's also been a dramatic increase in break-ins and assaults, especially of the elderly, while the resident is at home. Australian politicians are at a loss to explain how public safety has decreased after such monumental effort and expense was expended in successfully ridding Australian society of guns. And you know you won't see this on the American Evening News or hear your governor or members of the state assembly disseminating this information. The Australian experience speaks for itself. Guns in the hands of honest citizens save lives and property. And yes, gun control laws affect only the law-abiding citizens. Take note, Americans, before it's too late. That right there from somebody in Australia that knows what he's talking about tells you what would happen here if they did manage to take our guns. Because remember, folks, England has had some of the most draconian gun laws for decades. Remember how the bobbies over there used to not carry guns? They carried their little whistles. If somebody was breaking the law, they'd start tooting on their little whistle, and more bobbies would come running up until they had enough people to take care of the situation. Did you know that now not only do bobbies wear guns on their hips, but they carry rifles in the trunks of their cars? Because the only people over there that have the guns are the cops and the criminals. And even when they don't have the guns, the criminals use knives. They just had where some Muslim guys over there killed a British soldier in uniform on a public street and cut his head off in the street. And this is what Obama wants brought to America. Well, good luck on that, because we're cowboying up and you won't get ours. Have a good weekend, and we will see y'all Monday.